I think a lot of us know what goals are. They're these big, audacious, long-term ambitions or your medium-term checkpoint objectives along the way. But anti-goals is actually something that I've started incorporating these last couple of months that I believe are extremely powerful. Boundaries, creating boundaries around the goals and conditions in which you want to achieve. How would you describe your life razor and how you implement anti-goals to support your goals?
Yeah. So I'll start with the anti-goals piece. Anti-goals, for those who aren't familiar with the concept, are all about what you want to avoid on your journey to achieve your goals. So if you think of your goals as like the summit of the mountain, anti-goals are the things that you aren't willing to sacrifice in getting there. Like you don't want to die while getting to the top of Mount Everest. You don't want to lose your toes. You don't want to like lose your ear, whatever. So if you think of like, my goal is to become CEO of this company. Well, my anti-goal might be being away from my family 300 nights out of the year, or allowing my health to fall off a cliff from all the travel and dinners out and all those things. I want to achieve the goal of becoming CEO, but not at the expense of these other things. It's really important to have both, because an awareness of the things you want to avoid on the journey goes to Charlie Munger's thing. I want to know where I'm going to die, so I never go there. Those are the places where I'm going to die. It's being away too much. It's allowing my health to suffer. And so I'm going to stay on track for my goals, and I'm going to avoid these bad areas along the way. As you set your goals for the coming year, you're listening to this early in the year, think about what the anti-goals are, what those things are that you want to avoid, because it creates a self-awareness around them so that on the way, as you continue to sort of naturally measure yourself and see whether you're headed toward the goals, you avoid those bad things that could befall you. The life razor that I lay out in the book is the idea of having a single point of focus, a single statement, a single idea that allows you to cut through the noise and the chaos in life. I sort of had the first genesis of this idea watching Apollo 13. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but like in the final scene, they're trying to enter the atmosphere. It's Tom Hanks is flying the spaceship, and they get told that basically if they come in too steep, they're going to blow up. If they come in too shallow, they're going to shoot off into space. And they don't really have a way to like perfectly hit the right angle because the computers aren't working on the ship. It's all a busted ship. And Tom Hanks says that he figured out a way. And basically what it is there's this little triangular window to his right. And he pans the ship over and the Earth comes into the center of this little window. And what he says is that if he keeps the Earth in the window while they're burning the engines, that will allow them to enter at the right angle so that they'll survive. That is a perfect example of what I'm getting at, which is in the midst of this crazy, chaotic, like 100 variable scenario, he has figured out a single point of focus that is going to allow him to just think about that one thing, cut through the noise, and get to the place he wants to go. The life razor is that for your life. It is your way of keeping the Earth in the window. My life razor is that I will coach my son's sports teams. Why is that my life razor? Well, it's about coaching his teams, but more so, it's about the ripples. It's about the identity that implies about who I am as a person and how I interact with the world around me. The type of person who coaches his son's sports teams is the type of person who is a great father, a great husband to my wife, a family member, a community member. It is someone who prioritizes family above financial opportunities, above whatever the next more is that people are trying to chase. It's someone who believes that the strength of his relationships are the most important asset that he has. And it's someone that believes that the freedom, his time, is the most valuable asset that exists. That means that when different scenarios or opportunities or chaos come into my life, I can ask myself, what does the type of person who coaches his son's sports teams do in this situation? And the answer becomes very clear.
What are your thoughts on establishing your anti-goals first and then your goals? Because as you're describing that, like if I set up my anti-goals first, I now know when I go to set up my goals what I'm not willing to sacrifice. And that might shift the goals themselves. And I think back to, I had Jordan Syatt on the podcast a few months ago. And he was explaining, we were talking about where he sees his business going and what his goals are in life. He's a newer dad as well, 2 young kids. And he came in and he was saying on the podcast, I come into BPN, I see what you guys have built, and I love it, but I would never want it. Because he worked as Gary Vee's trainer for years, and he saw how hard Gary Vee had to work and what he had to sacrifice to get what he has. And Jordan realized, I respect that, but I don't want it because I don't want to sacrifice certain parts of my life to achieve X, Y, and Z. So what are your thoughts on establishing anti-goals before goals?
I think it's brilliant. It's funny. Jordan, I met Jordan when he was, so he went to the high school next door to mine, and he was an intern at Eric Cressy. I don't know if you've ever come across Cressy stuff. He's the performance coach for the Yankees now. He was an intern at Cressy Performance, which was my first gym when I started training for baseball when I was 16 or 17.
Nice.
So I've known Jordan for a long time. It's amazing to see his rise and success. I think it's a great idea. And this comes to like a fundamental realization I've had in life, that the people that I read books about are rarely people I would ever trade lives with. Mm-hmm. I read all these business biographies of the most incredible people in history, from Elon Musk to John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, all these people. I would never trade lives with any of those people. You couldn't pay me any amount of money to go trade lives with them, because the things that I want are not the same as the things that they wanted. And the realization there is that there is a list price, if you will, for the things that you want to achieve in life. It's the price that you're going to have to pay for those things. So to build a big business, you're going to have to, have a great idea and put in all this work and do all of these things along the way and go build an incredible business. But then there's the real price of those things, which is the other sacrifices that get made. It's the relationships lost, it's the health, it's the stress, it's all of these other areas that we often don't think about or see. And a lot of people delude themselves into thinking they want to play a game on the basis of the list price being attractive, when in reality, if you take into account the real price, it's a ripoff. And one of the calls to action in this entire book is to really think about what games you want to play. Because life and culture and society will try to hand you the default game, which is to just make more and more money. And social media will hand you that game and tell you that okay, just play this game. Here's the game that you're going to play for the rest of your life. But if you play someone else's game for your entire life, you will never feel successful. You will never feel successful unless you create your own definition of success, unless you play your game. So Jordan saying that, this is amazing that you're doing this, but I would never want to play this game. I respect and admire that about people more than anything else. Yeah. Someone who has made no money, but they're playing just the game that they want, I think that's incredible. And even you and I having a conversation before we got on here, I asked you that question of what do you really want to do long term? What is the game that you really want to play for the next 20, 30 years? And that being clear in your mind, that's your North Star, right? That's the true north of this whole thing. I want to build an incredible relationship with my kids, with my wife. I want to build a house full of love, this incredible lineage, grandkids, and all of these things that I see. And I want to create an impact in the world. I want to impact people positively with the ideas that I share. And that doesn't have a whole lot to do with making $1 billion. Maybe I would make money as a byproduct of those things, but building an enormous business that makes billions of dollars, that's not actually the game that I want to play.